primarily a huge follower of Ethereum and Cardano.
Afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. My name is Frank Dyer. I am crypto enthusiast, first of all, and I'm working with a P2P exchange called BitKE, which is just expanding into the continent. And part of the reason I'm really interested in having this conversation is because Ethereum is one of the cryptocurrencies that we've listed on the platform. So I'm really looking forward to having this discussion and get to hear from the rest of the audience as well.
All right, great. We have quite a lot to cover. I think we'll just go straight into the topics of discussion. Maybe we can start with the basic question. What is Ethereum 2.0? And maybe we can just slightly go back and get an intro into Ethereum as a whole itself. Maybe I can start with Kevin and then I go to Frank.
How I will answer and present today will be strongly leaning on developer perspective, on how we look at it from a developer perspective and how it affects us as developers. Because as developers, we are not looking at just cryptocurrencies, we are looking at how it's affecting society. And the reason why Ethereum 2.0 had to come, and it was thoroughly necessary, was because the kind of projects that were being planted, if I should use that as layman's language, the kind of protocols that were being built on Ethereum were so many that the system was going to clog at some point. Because the way Ethereum was built, if you look at the code, it was not built to scale. It was only built to serve a specific function. So if you ask me what Ethereum 2.0 is, to me, Ethereum 2.0 is an upgrade of Ethereum, the original Ethereum, what you call Ethereum 1.0. So in simple terms, Ethereum 2.0 is just an upgrade for scalability issues.
Spoken like a true developer. So maybe we can hear from Frank.
Yeah. So of course, mine is a non-technical sort of explanation. For those who've been following this space, Ethereum was launched in 2015, and since then, there's been, like Kevin said, a lot of projects that are being launched onto it. You can remember very well the 2017 ICO boom, for example. Everyone was literally just, launching an ICO, and pretty much all of them were being built on top of Ethereum. So there's just been a lot of interest in that space. And even just more recently, decentralized finance, DeFi is also coming up, and a whole lot of, interest trying to build with Ethereum is there. I would also add that when it comes to Ethereum, the sheer number of transactions it's been having has made it, even very expensive to transact on. So I think I'd also want to add that beyond scaling to accommodate more projects or to be built on top of it, there's also the transaction cost and the transaction speed. And I think Ethereum 2.0 is probably going to be one of the most ambitious upgrades that has happened in this blockchain. And I think the intention is to basically ensure that it can be able to serve globally in a very scalable manner, and to also, of course, ensure security in that platform, so that at the end of it all, beyond just using Ethereum as a platform, they would want to use or to transform Ethereum into some sort of asset, a digital asset.
Great. I mean, it sounds like Ethereum 2.2 is coming with so much. But even with all that comes with Ethereum 2.0, we know that it's not a switch. It's not an immediate switch. It's taking quite some time. I think about 2 years. Kevin, you can talk about why it's taking this long, to switch to Ethereum 2.0, and maybe a bit on these phases of switching eventually to Ethereum 2.0?
The reason why the switch is taking so long is because of the development part of it. What kind of data they've been gathering to try and develop that one-off key switch that will permanently stay relevant. Every developer has been waiting for Ethereum 2.0. At some point, we were even thinking it's a rumor that 2.0 is coming, but we felt the need of it coming because at some point, all the protocols and /projects that were being built on Ethereum, there were so many, they were clogging. And just like Frank was saying, it was also becoming expensive. Even as a developer, when you're proposing, when you're giving a client a quotation, it was literally expensive for them to afford to deploy a smart contract on Ethereum because there were so many of them. The reason why it's taken so long, actually it's taken an excess of 8 months to bring it to this level we are, is because of those nitty-gritties, because again, they have very strong competitors coming. Competitors that realized Ethereum was built as, let's put data on blockchain. Let's not just have Ethereum as another Bitcoin. Let's now, as opposed to working on money, let's choose data. So data went onto Ethereum, but they never thought that they would reach this pedestal. So I don't know whether I've answered your question up to there, but that's why it took so long. And again, before we realize the effects of what Ethereum 2.0 can do, we will have seen an example of projects like virtual land sales. I can give you an example of the Discord channels where we discuss the possibilities of Ethereum 2.0 and above, where they have reached. Their mental status tells them we can digitize our assets. Now, assets are very many. A matchbox is also an asset. The UAP building is an asset, right? So you can imagine digitizing UAP building into a digital asset and you make money out of it. It's just like Bitcoin. You cannot see it, but look at the value. So if I was given a project, for example, by, let me use Barclays Bank, now that it doesn't exist. Let's assume Barclays Bank was still alive. Barclays Bank approaches me and they tell me, okay, we want you to digitize our assets. Those assets will be digital. I will literally shrink Barclays Bank into a small wallet, and all the functions that they do will be crashed into that one wallet. So, for example, if I need to buy land, virtual land, I will buy that virtual land for 1,000 bob. And then it will be like a city, for example. A city has the CBD, residential areas, the transport grid, the water system. So you choose where to buy land. So you buy land next to the CBD, then you tell yourself, okay, it will raise in value. I'm trying to get a point across. If you buy land next to town, you do know it will appreciate in value, right? That's how the system has always worked. Imagine the whole of Nairobi being digital. You buy land in a specific place, and then at some point, it will rise in value because the next plot of land, someone has bought it. And probably someone has bought it from Australia. They don't need to be in Kenya, but they have seen the whole platform, how it looks like. So they buy that plot of land, they store it in their blockchain wallet. For those who don't know blockchain wallets, it's one of those things you keep to yourself. You don't ask someone to do it for you. You keep it yourself. You store those private keys with you, then you wait for it to appreciate. Now, if you want a loan from the comfort of your home, you just apply. And against what you have in terms of assets, how much Ether you have, if you have Ether worth 10 million shillings, you can request for a loan, a digital asset, to your wallet with no need of all this bureaucracy we are used to having. You have to go to the bank, you have to have a nice turnover. You have to have collateral. They have to assess collateral. All those paperwork things do not exist in the blockchain ecosystem. So you can imagine if we shrank our financial institution into what Ethereum is doing, courtesy of the godfather Bitcoin, then we'd be all seated at home making things work from the comforts of our homes. Right now, if I want to send 10 million shillings to the States, I can't do it as fast as I want, as fast as I can send a WhatsApp message to the States. Ethereum 2.0 is going to do all these things and then some more. A lot more to the design that some of us can't even comprehend how powerful it's going to be. But from where I'm seated, it is so powerful, it can render the whole of central bank redundant. It is that powerful. It can do so many things like this within a snap of a finger. Perfect example, if you lose your ID card. If you lose your ID card, you can, how can I call it? It's like you can rescan it and it can come back again. You don't have to go to the police station and say, oh, I was going home, I had shopping in my pocket, oh, I lost my wallet, don't have an ID now, please give me, I don't know what that piece of paper they call. Then you have to go to Huduma Center and then you apply for all that work is unnecessary just to get another identification. What this platform allows is, if you lose sensitive data, there's backup for it. And you have to be your own custodian of your own backup. That now means it brings you back to where you were immediately, in a second. That is what Ethereum 2.0 is doing. And still, Ethereum 2.0, in as much as it's getting to that level, it's also facing competition. So they have to keep tabs. So until we see actual real use cases, which are just around the corner, and I hope Kenya is going to be one of those countries that develop the first few protocols, then it is still far-fetched.
Wow, okay, Kevin, you went deep in a serious way. And I think you touched on a few points, which actually bring me to the next question, which you touched a few points on the problems that Ethereum 2.0 is trying to solve. So you've obviously mentioned a few, scalability and others. Maybe I could ask Kevin Frank to add to that. What else do you feel Ethereum 2.0 is coming to solve?
We've always been sold the concept of blockchain as unhackable. You cannot have what they call a 51% attack. However, in its previous current state, 1.0, considering that they were on the proof of work sort of consensus algorithm, having all these platforms being set up on top of it, and just by the mere, I'd say, structure of a proof of work, it would prove very difficult to secure the network, and therefore I think part of what Ethereum 2.0 is coming to do is to also switch from proof of work to proof of stake, which ideally would make it very difficult to sort of hack the 51% track the platform. That also means that they will ensure actual decentralization of the Ethereum blockchain. So that's, I think, is a very key addition or improvement on it as it progresses going forward.
You mentioned proof of work, switching from proof of work to proof of stake. Maybe you can discuss a little bit about that. Why are we switching from proof of work to proof of stake? Maybe you can, and before you answer that, maybe give a quick description of what those two terms.
So let me explain the terms by actually describing the movement from proof of work to proof of stake. So the reason it's happening, it's for security, and then it's also for energy efficiency, and also just trying to reduce that risk of centralization for miners. Ideally, what happens is you want to make sure that the cost of attacking the blockchain is very high, right? And then maybe in very extreme cases where you do get that sort of 51% attack, it becomes very easier to kind of coordinate a new chain to ensure that you get rid of the hacker. So how it usually works is this way. For example, proof of work, which is Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain runs on. So you have these sets of miners who are distributed. So apparently it's distributed, but a lot of people on the Ethereum sort of community don't feel like it is distributed or sort of decentralized, because we have just 4 key miners and all of them are based in China. So that makes it very, very easy to manipulate. I mean, it's possible to manipulate. What proof of stake does, it makes it possible for anyone, as long as you even have your laptop, you can stake and run your node, and that way it becomes something that anyone can be able to participate in. So for example, when Ethereum 2.0 was being launched, there was staking happening, and in the staking they wanted to raise, I think, 528,244 F, and the minimum that you needed to stake was 32 F. But then what if I don't have 32 F? Even if I had 1 F, the system made it such a way that even if you had one ETH to do that staking, there would be different channels for you to access, even doing it through an exchange, which is pretty much accessible for everyone. And I think at the end of the day, what you realize is that it encourages more people to get involved in that sort of ecosystem, and it makes it very hard for one central sort of miner or anyone with absolute sort of control over resources to be in charge of how the network is run.
As you're explaining that, you mentioned a few technical requirements for the launch of Ethereum 2.0. So you need to stake, or at least the validators needed to stake 32 ETH minimum. What other technical requirements were required, for Ethereum 2.0 to go live? Maybe I can throw that question to Kevin.
What kind of requirements were needed to throw Ethereum 2.0 live? A huge developer support, which is not yet done. It's still ongoing in the back end, but the kind of support right now, it has the developer support, the guys who are doing the blockchain development of the code, they're still working on it. In as much as it's gone live, we know there's no turning back. It can only be made better because of the competitors. Now that Frank mentioned the differences between POW and POS, is because they also learned that if we keep this happening, the likes of IBM and the likes of Google will just buy 100 acres of land, and then they're just going to build these huge mining platforms, and then they'll end up centralizing blockchain. It is pointless for me to have gotten to where I am only for some people on some end over there, simply because they have money and they are able to do whatever they want to do. They can set up some piece of land and do exactly what some Chinese people have done for Bitcoin. We will end up being centralized. That is not the reason why we are here. We are here to decentralize the whole ecosystem. Whatever happens, however it happens, you and I need to be in control of whatever we own. You have 1,000 Ether. You choose when to withdraw. Either on Sunday morning, either on Sunday afternoon. It doesn't matter what time. And you want it to be as cheap as possible. And you want it to go to whoever you want it. And even if you want to send 1 billion shillings, you want the person to receive exactly 1 billion shillings. You want it to be peer-to-peer. You don't want it to be centralized again and Google is saying, oh, we can send this money for you at a certain amount of fee. That's not where we want to go back to. And Ethereum 2.0 has tried, I think, they had full knowledge of this. They have tried and I feel they have killed it. They have nailed it. And the more we move on, the stronger Ethereum 2.0 is.
Yeah,
all right.
We just don't want to go backwards.
All right. Sorry. Maybe just also allow me to add that this process is still ongoing. And this entire thing has just been happening in phases. Very technical. So there was the first phase, which was called phase 0, where there was something called a beacon chain, which is like the core layer of the new network that is being launched. And then there's a second phase, which is called phase 1, and then there's phase 1.5. Well, each of them have their own like sort of technical requirements, and the fact that it's a process and it takes time means that at the end of the day, like Kevin said, you cannot manipulate it as an individual. It's a process that actually is still ongoing, and you are not even sure when exactly the entire rollout will be done, probably in a year or even more. So there's just a lot of like players involved. They're like validators and of course the stakers as well. So it makes it kind of robust when, like you said, Kevin, the community is actively involved in it.
I think I read somewhere that eventually any user of ETH will be able to stake. Is it true?
That's on a trading aspect or what exactly?
Well, they claim that right now, unless you have 32 ETH, that's the only time you can be a validator. So so eventually anybody will be able to, stake their ETH and be able to, become a validator. I don't know if you can authenticate that or it was a bit, far-fetched.
Not 100% sure from my end why they chose that, probably for the reasons of regulations. They didn't want to be overwhelmed, because if I can slightly deviate and then come back, every time, for example, you hear of Bitcoin halving, if you are keen enough, you will notice there are certain small projects that come up. They have very funny names leaning towards Bitcoin, yeah? Then those projects come in just to ride on the halving aspect. I'm not going to authenticate exactly what's going on with what you just asked about Ethereum 2.0, but they try and regulate as much as they can so that it also pushes what you want to call scammers or even genuine projects coming up, it just throws them off. But it's a good regulation process because they have not fully scaled. It's an ongoing process. And because of the excitement about it, because they are the only subject to confirmation for another project, they are the only original smart contract deployers. They're the ones at the very top. Just so that they're not overwhelmed by the excitement in numbers, they need to regulate that threshold.
Now, speaking of staking, apparently once you stake your ETH, you cannot, use it, right? Why is that the case?
One of the biggest sort of hesitances that people had is that, what they call the lockup period. So they've already raised the 554,244 ETH, and now what is happening is that your staking your ETH is now locked. However, what they expect to happen is like in, I think, phase 1.5, it will be unlocked. But then, people are still not so sure about the exact timelines. But what you can do right now is you can find access to liquidity on your ETH and use it on like a different platform. Like the DeFi platforms. I don't know if I could like just go through the sort of technical aspects of how that is done, but there are sort of, I'd say, institutions.
Maybe you can quickly rush through it.
Yeah. So there are certain institutions which would allow you to borrow your ETH, and you sort of like get a collateralized loan, right? Considering that you've kind of guaranteed them that I have my ETH locked out, and then when you get that loan, it's like a derivative, right? So you can send it to like one of these like compound and die, and then you just play around with it to earn additional interest. Yeah, so there's some sort of mitigation to ensure that in as much as it's locked, you can still find a way around just getting a loan and use it while the staking is still ongoing before you're able to access it.
Sounds like, Kevin, you want to add something?
Yeah. It's exciting how Frank and I are in different states, but we think along the same lines. When this is the same conversation I was having with my bro, we were saying if they're going to stake, well, because of regulation purposes, and we can't enter the space and come out with it profitably because they're still trying to grow. They introduced the DAI. If any one of you knows MakerDAO, now Maker is up there. It's becoming expensive, and we were thinking if you can stake and use it as collateral to go to Maker. At that time, Maker was 100, and now I think it's 500. And you still see the situation under Ethereum. You can still, just as Frank said, you can still have that collateral that is still locked up and go play around, make money, come back, and pay your loan. It's that simple. It's that simple if you understand how the space is functioning. And that way it has reduced a lot of scamming and because you're just going to be directed to specific products that are out there that are trying to grow.
So thank you actually for bringing the topic of DeFi now into the conversation, because apparently maybe I would ask, do you feel that the appeal of DeFi is a threat to Ethereum 2.0 state?
How can I say it? Before Frank goes, I want to get this out of my head. It's just welcoming competition. It's just welcoming competition and keeping Ethereum on toes. You see how with Bitcoin, it will forever remain the way it is. We will only enjoy the newness of Bitcoin when it's half. Period, right? For Ethereum, they have to keep up with people's ideas and needs. They have to always scale. So scalability and security is the reason why I've even lost my trail of thought. Scalability is the reason why Ethereum 2.0 has to accept that DeFi has come, and there are going to be new projects that will be able to handle DeFis, and DeFis will be the hottest prospects. Just like the example I was giving you before about Barclays and let's say UAP, that's decentralized finance. When you just the word itself, decentralized finance, I can send 20 million to my grandmother and she will get it through no other intermediaries. That's an example of decentralized finance, and that is really hot. So for those who are trading, if they're very careful and if they understand how to do yield farming, like, hustling, like trying to understand, is this project legit or not? Can I put my money in there or not? They need to understand where that project is headed. What exactly is this project trying to achieve? Some of these projects are just, you cannot use real use cases in blockchain. You cannot start saying you're going to put the Kenya shilling on blockchain. I am yet to see that. They didn't even put the US dollar on blockchain. The best they did is come up with Tether, USDT. That's the farthest you can go. And still, USDT is still a cryptocurrency. It's a stable coin. It remains on this side of the blockchain. So DeFi's, now that DeFi's have come, they have widened the scope of cryptocurrencies so that people don't focus on just cryptocurrencies. They also focus on what else the space can do for them. Frank?
Yeah, so I think I'd also add that when you think of these two parallels, so the fear is, more people use their ETH in DeFi as opposed to staking. But the way the rewards are set up, it's such that the less people stake, the higher the reward. And that means the more people, the less people stake, the higher the rewards. So if there are more people staking, there will be the rewards will be lower. So then it sort of incentivizes you to, just hold it to there. That sort of thing. What else? I think, it's just introducing another sort of competitive landscape. I think there's more incentive for you to stake as opposed to just, withdraw your returns. So like if half the people who are staking, decide to take away their ETH, then, the rewards will be slashed by half. So something of the sort. But if we have, less people staking, if you have more people staking, the rewards are actually, they go up. So it encourages you to stake. So it wasn't like really a big challenge. That's why, they were able to raise the ETH in time and actually launch. Yeah.
Speaking of ETH and what Ethereum 2.0 apparently will enable, how do you feel, or how do you think Ethereum will achieve, a combination of a store of value, a capital asset, and a commodity with Ethereum 2.0?
A store of value, a commodity, and
as a capital asset.
Okay, I'd say a commodity in like the usual sense is something like oil, store value like gold, and a currency, right? Like USD or Kenya shillings. So I think it serves it in this way. There are gas fees. So you use the gas fees to move the transaction. So I guess that makes it work as a store of value. As a medium of exchange. Yeah, I think. As a commodity, like oil, I'd say the staking rewards enable you to have like an asset which whose value kind of rises over time. And as a what's the third one? Sorry.
So it's as a store of value, as a capital asset, or as a commodity?
I need to give me a moment to just think about the last one. But I think, just the fact that you use gas fees on the Ethereum network to do the transactions already makes or gives it that sort of medium of exchange.
All right. As you also think about it, maybe Kevin can.
Yeah. From where I'm seated, if I was to sit down and I'm asked to build something that encompasses those three states that you mentioned, I'd say, how about I give you a system that can do 20,000 transactions in a single second with no buffering? How will that sound to you? From someone who's in banking, for example, and from someone who's in IT, how sweet does that feel? And if I told you those 20,000 transactions in 1 second can go to anywhere in the world, and they can do literally anything, not just sending ether to ether, but just You can gas fees as well included, sending ether to ether. Second, what else? Deploying smart contracts you have to pay for, and it's like I deploy a smart contract like this, instant. How good does that feel? Do our local banking systems or international banking systems, can they manage this number of transactions, 20,000 of them in a second? It's like, for those who are in sports, imagine a stadium of 20,000 people. Then imagine all those people vanishing like that. And then they go to the next stadium and then they appear there, all of them at the same time. Do we have any financial institutions with half the capability? If we do, then I would want to invest in that company, in that real life company. I would say M-Pesa is trying, and M-Pesa has really put us, though I'm not a supporter of it, it has really put us in a very nice spot in Africa. Mobile money. You can imagine how many mobile money transactions that happen every day. And you are sure if you buy your airtime, it will come immediately. If you send an M-Pesa transaction to someone, it will happen immediately. But it costs you a lot of money. With this space, what we do, there is this term we like using, near zero fees. That near zero fees is where we win. And scalability of sending all these thousands and thousands and thousands. Go check if anyone, I wish I could send a link of how Ethereum transactions look like. In a second, they update themselves like this, like this, like this. You can't even keep up. 20,000, 5,000 going on and on and on. None, not even one shows you that it's spending. All of them are just sent. All of them. You don't even need to refresh because the thing is refreshing itself. That's how blockchain works. That's how valuable this space is. If you look at Ethereum's numbers in terms of trading, they are so massive, they can run an entire country and then some. That's how powerful, exciting, and thrilling this thing is. It's just unbelievable.
Wow.
I think you answered it very well. I have nothing to add there.
Yeah, I can even see comments already. People are like, they are quite excited about that, Kevin. You know, the way you explain the transactions and relate it to banking. But moving on, maybe just to move the conversation along, maybe I would like to ask, Ethereum 2.0 is still, it just launched, so it's still not here yet, In the meantime, what happens to Ethereum 1.0? We are still facing the scaling problems right now. How are these going to be solved as we wait for Ethereum 2.0, to come fully alive?
If I can start before, Frank. Ethereum 1.0 is almost at the ceiling and it's expensive. The question you asked is what to do until 2.0 comes. From my end, I just wait it out. I just want to use 2.0. I really want to, because of the features. It's like, for those who are using an iPhone, you have an iPhone, the iOS you're using is 8.0 and we're at 14.2. The 14.2 one is such a good deal when you compare it to 8.0. You want to wait. From a developer, if I had clients, I'd want to wait for 2.0 because of the features and how speedy it's going to be. It leaves us, as users, it leaves us in a limbo. So the best thing I would do if I was a trader, and I'm not saying people follow my trading skills because I have none, if I needed to do something about Ethereum 2.0 with all the hype, is buy Ether and hold and see how it goes. But personally, I'm not buying Ether. I'm buying something else. I will not say. I would, just as I wait, I'll just buy Ether and just wait because it's growing very fast. It's growing fast. From what?
I mean, let me interrupt just before.
Yeah.
there were some commentaries about, running dApps 2.0 over 1.0, and you mentioned you would advise your clients to wait it out, right?
Yes.
So those features, what are those features that dApps on 2.0 have capabilities that you can't find on 1.0?
Speed, absolute speed. And the new features that are introduced are, it's easy to build dApps on 2.0. Before, I have my brother and I, we've built on 1.0, and the transactions are still there. They're on the testnet for Ethereum. They're still there. They're 400 days old, and they're still running, and they're still solid, and they still serve as relevant to Ethereum. This new version of the dApp means if a client comes to me and they want a supply chain formula, you see how if you own a shop, you have certain levels of operations that happen, from transport, from the warehouse. For example, if you're a farmer and you want to sell your goods, the only person you're going to sell your goods to is that person who's coming to your farm to buy them from your farm. They buy them at that cheap, then they bring them to Nairobi, and then they charge the consumers, a hefty amount. An orange is not supposed to be going for 10 shillings. It's supposed to be going for 5 shillings. But someone has decided one will cost me 10 shillings. No, the farmer was selling it for, 2 bob. I want to buy it for 5 bob. If I go to the farmer, the farmer will sell it to me at 2 bob. Simply because of distance, that's why these middlemen have to do all the toiling for us to bring that orange to my table for 10 shillings, which of course I have made, the farmer has made a loss and I have been extorted. What Ethereum 2.0 does is how it eliminates all these middlemen, how it eliminates the extortion that happens between all these middlemen, is the kind of records it keeps. That farmer, like there's a lady in Senegal who built a very beautiful concept, and it's still working. But my example would be different. That farmer plants. The person who comes to pick those lorry people, they come. They buy from the farmer at a certain amount. It is put on record. These records you cannot change. They're immutable, right? Now, that lorry person brings to Marikiti here. Now, the person at Marikiti will look at the pricing. The farmer sold, according to these records, the farmer sold, for example, 1 bag of oranges, the farmer sold at 500 shillings, for example. Now, it was bought at 800 shillings by this lorry person. Now, this lorry person is selling it to you at 1,200 shillings. I, the consumer, will look at that ledger sheet and see, does it really make sense? Does my 1,200 that I'm spending here benefit the farmer? You understand? So that farmer has reason to plant again. It's not like those coffee farms that now are disappearing. The value of coffee is now non-existent anymore, simply because people want to build homes. It's because those farmers didn't see the value in coffee. Coffee in the world is second. I don't know whether it's number 2 or 3, or it's in top 10. I don't know. It's the most valuable crop. Yeah. But here, across our city, coffee farms are being transformed to real estate. So what Ethereum 2.0 does is accommodate all this information that I can use and tell my client, look here, if I go to the Coffee Board of Kenya, I'll tell them, this system will help your farmers to make money. It will help your middlemen to stop extorting farmers and to also make money. And it will make the coffee that end up on my table slightly cheaper. And that's what I mean by Ethereum 2.0, Kevin holding out until it actually comes out. Meantime, we can use the code that is already out to build. And by the time we are done and we deploy, every smart contract will be able to be read by anyone in the world. You can go to the supermarket look at a loaf of bread and know a farmer called David in Narok planted the wheat that made this bread 6 months ago. And that wheat was moved to a storage facility at this period. This was the weather. This is how much it rained. This is how much sun was. These are the number of people that worked on that wheat. These are the number of people that baked that bread. All those details, including the costs, will be at the very end. Then bread will be cheap in this country. It won't be as much as it costs right now. So that is where Ethereum 2.0 is going. Perfect record keeping.
Wow. All right. Frank, you have something to add?
Yeah, just to add that, since 2.0 is already here, the only limitation is that, the rest of the features have not been deployed. It's still a process, but this is a very exciting space as Kevin has mentioned. And I don't know, for anyone who's following the prices over the past 2 months or thereabout, there's been like a bull rally on ETH. So I guess, if you of course didn't manage to stake, you just buy and hold. Not financial advice, but then, this is something that has really captured the attention of a lot of people, and going forward we expect, if you're not a dev like Kevin, we always encourage people to just get into the space, maybe, as a trader, because getting to just understand that there's thousands, probably even millions of applications that will be fully deployed in the next few means that, just holding that asset that is enabling that platform to run would be, very valuable in the long term. And like you had asked me earlier, which was responded really well. This is not just going to be a store value. It's going to be a commodity. It's going to be like a means of exchange.
Great. Thanks, guys, at least for I think you've broken this topic down really well. I love, the explanations and the definitions, and obviously giving us a better understanding of what Ethereum 2.0 is. I can see there's so many questions. I think I forgot to mention that we have a giveaway. We have a $200 giveaway as well. So if you ask a question, so we'll select from those who are asking questions, and that's how we are going to do the giveaways. So if you ask a question, then you stand a chance to win. So again, keep those questions coming. I think in the next few minutes, we'll just be taking those questions. Maybe I can begin with some of these queries and questions. There are also quite a number of queries here. Jackie here, she says, not sure what version Ethereum started, but I would like to hear a brief roadmap of it since inception to the much needed scaling as mentioned by Kevin. I don't know if we answered that question, or maybe Kevin, you can quickly.
Sorry, David, I was also trying to read some of the questions. If you could ask the one you've read.
So the question, question is actually addressed to you. It's what Ethereum version started, and she would like to hear a brief roadmap since its inception to the much needed scaling.
The original one was basically supposed to challenge Bitcoin on the original, which is the one we are moving out from, is Ethereum 1.0. It started as Vitalik did it. He wanted to also transfer and store data securely. Yes, it's going to be a cryptocurrency on its own. It will not depend on Bitcoin. It will be on its own ecosystem. It will support itself. But they never considered scaling. That's why we are now looking at Ethereum 2.0. Now, where they want to go is, they were young, but now they've matured and they've realized, oh wait, we can actually build virtual economies on the whole spectrum. And if we scaled, we can also accommodate different kinds of economy, from agriculture to finance to banking to politics. By that I mean voting processes. They went into trying to accommodate in the very simple code called Solidity. It's a code that is more of literature, language, than actual numbers and codes. The language allows you to deploy conditions. Let me just close this so I can see. It allows to deploy conditions that if I should now use the most complex of situations, politics. If let's say Moi, our late president, if Moi does not win, then he won't be president. If he does not reach a certain threshold by sunset or by 6 p.m., he will not be president. The second runner-up, or the one who's number 2, will be president. There are conditions that were introduced originally in Ethereum to support contracts. That conditions have to be met for certain things to have happened. If I have bought a motorbike and I want it delivered home, cash on delivery, that motorbike, if it's not paid for, when it arrives at the address I have given, I will be penalized. Yeah? Because I will have wasted time spent by the person who's sending it to me. So in as much as there is cash on delivery as the standard requirement, it's necessary for that charge to be met if you will not have fulfilled the contract. It's similar to what happens in local Bitcoin. If you're buying BTC, that BTC will not come to you until you fulfill your end. Yes, there will be an escrow involved, but Ethereum 2.0 has gone ahead to simplify how the escrow functions, because Ethereum cannot start contracting Kevin Akama as the escrow to the transactions it makes in the platform. So that's where Ethereum was, that's where it is now, and that's where it's headed. It's going to a standard where it will just change entire economies, and then they will be very fluid, very, very fluid. And then many people think that the emergence of these protocols and projects and the entire space of blockchain will make people lose their jobs. No, the jobs we are doing today are the same jobs that were being done in 1900. The same ledger book that is being used in the New York Stock Exchange is a soft copy, or it's in soft copy of, if you've done history, of the original one that was built in 1880 something by the likes of Vanderbilt. It was on a piece of paper. That ledger was on a piece of paper. It's being used right now at the New York Stock Exchange. It's the same old system. So blockchain now is the future of everything. In 100 years, this technology will be old, and they'll be saying, this is what people in 2020, 2015 were using. It's the same one. So now we are introducing new jobs, new forms of jobs. When I was in high school, I didn't know blockchain, but now look, if anyone asks me, Kevin, what do you want to be in the future? I tell them a dentist or a lawyer. But now I'm in a different space that I do not think I want to live. So that's where Ethereum has come from, and that's where it's going.
All right. I hope, Jackie, you've had your question answered. I mean, there's so many comments here. I think you guys can also help me so I don't miss any. There's a question for Frank here. Someone is asking, Frank has mentioned finance. I hope that there's much hype about DeFi. Are there some new upgrades to the DeFi ecosystem we should be hoping for, given the new Ethereum 2.0?
With Ethereum 2.0 coming in, what will happen is even more players will come into the DeFi ecosystem, because one of the biggest challenges that has bedeviled DeFi is like the transaction costs. all transactions are done in ETH, and ETH has really been very expensive to move around your tokens. Beyond like an expanded sort of community and the reduced costs, I think the fact that it's going to be, the security issue that is being introduced would also, be like a great advantage to the DeFi ecosystem.
I'm just skipping some questions, some comments here, just trying to get some relevant questions. There's a question here, maybe Kevin or Frank, you can answer. Someone is asking, in the past, during the ICO boom, many projects were coming up and indicating the number of transactions their blockchains would confirm per second or per minute, and how this would impact on the crypto price. So my question is, how is the number of transactions being confirmed in a certain blockchain directly related to the price of the cryptos under that blockchain?
I'd say in one sentence, it's the demand and supply. And some of this information has to be withheld so that we don't have the same boom that will affect people positively and negatively.
I agree. It's all about demand and supply. But of course, with Ethereum 2.0 going forward, the transaction costs are expected to go down significantly.
I'd like to quickly answer what Evans Uber has asked. How can Ethereum 2.0 eliminate the middleman? Well, it won't eliminate the middleman. It will just let everyone know what the middleman is doing. So the middleman will be in business of being relevant, but not in business of extortion, making money. So I hope that is easily understood. There'll be space for them, but they need to play decently so that the farmer, for example, or the original producer and the consumer both enjoy cheap prices, and the farmer or the producer can enjoy maximum profits, so that everyone along the supply chain gets value.
I'd also want to take Muradha's question about the 32 ETH that was being used to stake. He's asking if the amount will be refunded, or is it more of a sinking fund that will at the end of all stages disappear? Now, the big risk about staking right now has been, you've locked up your funds for significant period of time. Could be months or even years. But the advantage is whatever you've staked is actually earning you an interest. Right now, I think it's about 4.5% per annum. So there's that advantage. The only risk is that, it's just going to be locked up, and, there's just a lot of uncertainty over when the entire implementation will be done. That's pretty much.
And maybe I can mention there are some companies that have come up also that even though you may not be able to raise 32 ETH, you can do like you can come together and raise that 32 ETH, right?
That's nice.
Yeah. I think a few exchanges have come up with that. There's a question here. Somebody's asking, Evans is asking, my problem is that the total supply of ETH is unknown. How do you think this will affect decentralization and token value?
I think I wouldn't know how it's going to affect the token value. I would only think of what they're trying to avoid in terms of the market being, the actual value of Bitcoin is supposed to be 3,000 USD, but it's where it is now because of, the maximum supply is 21 million. So everyone is rushing to get a bit of it. So I feel if it was unknown, the value wouldn't be above 5,000. So I think the same replicates to Ethereum. That's from where I'm seated. That's my interpretation, borrowing from Bitcoin. The reason why we that information will be withheld is, and the reason why everyone knows Vitalik is the one who owns the most Ether, I guess. I mean, I think it's supposed to solve that price factor. I'm not 100% sure, but I strongly feel that's the reason why.
Yeah, I'd also just want to add that I think in 2016 or 2017, there were some rumors. Someone was spreading some very false rumors that Vitalik had died. And what followed in the market was crazy. The prices really dropped because now that meant people were not secure about the future of the technology. So I think this still remains to be seen. It's a mix. I don't know. It just remains to be seen, at least for now. I don't want to also just assume anything.
David, there's a question here by Andrew Kisilu. My question in regards to your explanation, Kevin, if Ethereum 2.0 will solve issue of middlemen through record keeping, what about logistics, transport of the goods? A bit confused on the exact role it will play. This will have to mean that stakeholders, even in real world, they adopt this system. They adopt the blockchain way of doing things. So that when a driver is, for example, leaving the port of Mombasa, they log in. They say, at this point, I received these documents, find attached. These documents are supposed to go to Nairobi. When they get to Kibwezi, they sign in. They say, I have arrived in Kibwezi at this point in time with this truck. The conditions are this and this and this. The fuel is half tank. That record is kept. And remember, these records remain to be immutable. They are there permanently. Then when they get to Nairobi, the same log is kept. They enter the details, they say they have arrived and they are at this location. The owner of the goods has come to receive the goods. It will need to be a mixture of what is happening, like physical goods are moving. So the only way blockchain can help that is storing the information of those moving goods. If you move from Mombasa to Kibwezi and it takes you a week, questions will be asked. And that's why people use GPS. But for record keeping, and then remember, these logs are live. My boss, if I'm the truck driver, my boss will be able to tell where I am at all times, live. And this information is decentralized. So if my boss is in the States, in Miami, swimming, they will know exactly where I am. They will not need to enter into www.I-don't-know-who to know exactly where I am. It will be right on their phones. The system will just be tapped on their phone. So those records will be kept. But again, this is yet to be done, but that is how it's supposed to be done. I believe that is how it will be done.
All right.
So the one question I really want to answer by Naima Ellen is, what is the one problem specifically for Kenya that Ethereum 2.0 will be able to solve? One answer, corruption will end. Period.
Yes, and maybe I will take up one last one from Evans. David, could you read it out to me? I think my network is just
I'm trying to
loading. You're saying, I think he was at Kevin. He says the banking sector here won't be able to handle it. Well, I don't understand the sort of context, but I want to mention two very interesting developments that have happened on Ethereum. One, which really blew everyone away, was the ICO boom, initial coin offerings. It decentralized, it democratized the, fundraising for projects. I mean, thinking back then, because I did a lot of projects around the same space, and thinking back then, one of the conversations we used to have is, if you're a small business owner or just an individual who's trying to launch a project or do a business, which options do you have to raise money? The very few, banks, of course, is an X. If you need to get it from your relatives and friends, but generally the options, even to date, it's still very, very limited. But what the ICOs actually came in to do, and this is just a function of the Ethereum network, was to enable anyone, literally anyone, anywhere, to raise money from all over the world, from random people, just through the network. Most recently, DeFi's, which is in a nutshell, bankless banking, is here. banks are not going to be the custodians that they've been all through the years. DeFi is actually coming in to kill banks, because DeFi enable you to do everything that you do in a bank without an actual bank. Saving, staking, loans. It's a very exciting piece. So there's really no one who's, sort of has the hold over how things are going to run going forward, especially these legacy platforms and systems like banks. And to be very, very ambitious in my estimate, in a very short while, in the next few years, you will not be going to a bank. You won't even need to use a middleman as a bank. All these DeFi platforms are coming in to solve that problem. And so far, we've seen it's been a very lucrative sort of industry. People are minting 1,000% returns in a very short while. So ideally, if you have to look at Ethereum that way, it's already shown you what's possible, and going forward, it's all about implementing and getting these legacy systems, even governments, off the table.
I like this question by Ed Richard, and maybe it would be good for both of you to answer. How do I prepare for Eth2?
Highly depends on what he'd like to see, because Ethereum 2.0 has prepared us for everything. Everyone in different spaces. If it's trading, I don't know how to answer that one. If it's development, I know what to tell you. It's just exciting to think that every single industry has been moved from hard copy to soft copy by Ethereum 2.0.
I'll add one single thing I'd encourage you to do if you're preparing. This is shameless marketing. Follow BitKE so that you understand what's happening in the space. It will show you what's happening and the opportunities that are there. And then from there, you can be able to figure out what you want to do. Is it development? Is it being even a writer? Is it a trader, like what we are doing here at Lato? There's just a whole lot of new opportunities that are there. Honestly, Kevin, you can't give them one single thing to think about, because it's a massive industry that is just getting started. But when you see like people like us, David is in the media, crypto or blockchain related, right? And that's he talks about Ethereum 2.0. Kevin is a developer. He's building on top of Ethereum 2.0 going forward. I am running or helping run a P2P platform where one of the things we do is trade Ethereum or ETH, the currency. So there's just a whole lot of things to do. Joe, so I guess the very first thing that you have to do is just start following the ecosystem and follow the opportunities that are there, because it's massive. There can't be just one answer.
And obviously attend sessions like this where, these discussions are taking place. And one of the reasons why we even organize these sessions is because we realize we need to talk more about this. I think even Kevin was talking about that in some podcast a while back, that we need to talk more about this and educate more people to see the potential. I like how Kevin describes the disruptive nature of Ethereum 2.0, and I think a lot of us are yet to grasp what this will mean, for whichever industry we are in. Maybe because of time, I'll ask Kevin and you, Frank, final words, closing comments on 2.0 has launched, moving forward, what's the future, and your personal opinions on the industry as a whole.
For me, I'd like to have everyone know that blockchain is not just cryptocurrencies. Blockchain is so many things. Blockchain is our lives, how we choose to live our lives. Blockchain gives us the power to decide how we are going to govern ourselves. We will not be led by a certain group of people who are going to make decisions for us. Blockchain allows us to do things the way we want, the way we feel fit, the way we agree that you, David, you owe me money. And yes, you say, yes, I owe you money. And you tell me how you're going to pay me. So you and I agree how these payments are going to be made. We don't need a lawyer and then spend money. That's an example of a use case. Blockchain is here to give all of us equal opportunities. All of us across the board. So yes, that is going to affect the market prices as well. As long as these use cases exist, these projects, if a new project comes up in Kenya and it is supported because of exactly what it's doing, of course, when it starts trading on Bitlato, where Frank is, of course, it will trade well because the people have seen how it has helped them. I'd like everyone to just look at blockchain on a broader perspective as they judge how they trade, not just jump into a hot pot and then get liquidated. And a financial tip to take away with: when Bitcoin falls, that's when you buy. When Ethereum falls, that's when you buy. It doesn't mean that Ethereum has fallen so you've lost. No, that's when you buy. Then you wait for it to shoot up, then you sell. But personally, I love holding. Goodbye.
Okay. If you go on YouTube, you'll find certain videos of people being taught about the internet, and people are curious on national TV. What is the internet? And these are videos from very, a long time ago, early 90s and thereabout. So it was new, it was complex, it was inaccessible to a lot of people. Today, the internet is everywhere. You go into a matatu, all you have to do is ask for the password, and you don't care what happens in between. You most likely don't even care who the service provider is and whatnot. So what's the relation of this, the growth of the internet with blockchain? We actually we've talked about this a lot, but we're still in those very early stages where we are having sessions like this and to discuss the nitty-gritty of what's happening in this space. But then going forward in a very short while, you won't need to know which sort of network this sort of application is running on. You'll have your device, mobile device or computer, you do some transaction or you do some action, and all of it is just working on the background. But then at the end of the day, what I think we all need to do is take up those opportunities that are coming up like this one. If you've learned today about Ethereum 2.0, what's the next step that you're going to take? Are you just going to let this slide, or will you try and get to be part of the ecosystem and try and playing your role to develop it? And of course, you'll benefit. Guaranteed, crypto is, let me just debate a bit. Crypto is just going to be the biggest wealth generator the universe has ever experienced. And for those who are here, and the wealth is being generated through, crypto trading, the wealth is being generated by these applications that are being built by people like Kevin. There's just a whole lot of things that are happening in this space. So really, if you're really interested, you don't have to be a techie. I'm not a techie like Kevin, but I use the skills that I have to learn about what's happening in this space, and then I just keep building up on it. So ideally, I'd want to just get everyone to study up more about what's happening in this space and try and get involved in the simple way that you can. And the community is growing, so ideally be part of it.
Thanks for that. Before we close, I'm being requested if I could ask Kevin and Frank to, sort of pick the winners for today, the ones you feel asked questions for the giveaways.
Okay, so for the giveaways, we have $200. Each winner will be walking away with $20 in Bitcoin that we'll be able to distribute to the winners. So I think we can choose 10 winners today, David.
Yes.
So I think when we started, you'd asked them to sign up on Bitslato. So if they have accounts, I think we'll be able to distribute those to them. So I don't know how you would want us to do the distribution, or we will make it random and make the announcements later.
Yeah, we can. Maybe you can go ahead and select the questions you feel were most relevant. Then we can contact them privately for the giveaway. So okay, maybe I'll give Kevin 5 and possibly you 5. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Kevin, you can start.
I have 2.
Okay.
I have 2. Unfortunately, right. I couldn't reach 5 because of the kind of questions they asked.
All right.
Okay.
Do you want me to repeat the questions?
Yeah, maybe you can read the questions or just the names of the ones who asked. Yeah.
Andrew Kisilu asked me the first question. Where is it? It's here. Andrew Kisilu asked me about how will Ethereum 2.0 solve issues of middlemen through record keeping? What about logistics, transport of goods? He said he was a bit confused. It also confused me how you want to attach the things that are the tangible things to blockchain. It's very difficult to attach tangible things to blockchain. I loved that question. It was my best for today. And then Andrew still asked me this other question.
As you look for that question, I'll ask you to pick another winner as well. At least
another winner is Naima LM. She asked me about what specific role Ethereum 2.0 will solve in Kenya, and I said corruption, and I loved it. I loved that question.
Awesome. So we have 2 winners. We have Andrew. We have Naima. We have 8 more to go.
I have Vincent.
All right.
Yeah, he asked me a challenging question. How long Ethereum 2.0 will be fully rolled out, which we don't know because it's still coming out. So those 3.
David, you can select 2.
Yeah.
For me, I think I would select Evans as well. I don't know if Evans has been picked. Evans sort of asked, I think there's a question he asked, I can't remember, but I kind of liked that. So I would pick Evans. We still have 7 more. I think, Kevin, you can still get 2 more.
I can get 2 more. Richard asked a question. Ed Richards asked a question, which I liked. Which communities do you involve yourself with? I think I can add him onto the list as the 4th person.
All right.
The only communities that you can join are the ones that you find yourself. Blockchain is all about what can you dig? How much information? Look, if you get into this space, you do not know exactly who you're going to be in this space. Even I didn't know I was going to be a developer in this space. I was just hoping to be a successful trader, but I started digging into holes that I don't know about. But because of my IT background, I ended up studying, self-teaching myself this thing for 2.5 years until we built our first blockchain protocol, which was called QPesa. QPesa was supposed to be like Bitcoin, but we wanted to scale it up to what Ethereum has done. So it moved from trading to building. So it's up to you to discover your own strength in this, because I have met a very good trader, and no matter how much he talks, I will never understand the modalities of how that trade functions. The longing, the shorting, I can't. The candlesticks, I know, but they are perfect. So just dig. There are no communities. If you find any, listen, verify, do your own research over and over and over again. Do your research, spend all the hours you can spend. Then you learn something that I don't know, because I learned new things from different people every other day because I do a lot of research.
Huge opportunities for entrepreneurs, definitely. So I think we have 5. I think Frank, you can also pick the 5 winners, and then we'll wind this.
I'll award Martin Maina if he is not on the list. I will also add Murathe.
All right.
Those are 2. And
Yeah, so,
thirdly, yes.
Yeah, we have
How
3
many
more
do
to
we have
go.
so far?
3 more. We have 7. 3
So
more
we
to
have
go.
3 more to go. Peter Muhia, is he on the list?
All right. Let me check as you look for the 2 more.
Yeah, and Evans Uber.
Yeah, he was already on the list, so we still have 2 more.
Evans is on the list as well.
Yes.
Okay. I will also Victor is also on the list, right?
Yes, Victor. So Victor makes it number 9. So 1 more to go.
Okay. And finally, Andrew Kisilu.
Yes, he was on the list.
All right. Finally, Jacqueline Wangari.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So that's good. I think now the requirement for you to redeem claim your reward, you need to set up an account on Bitslato. Also, just to be able to understand what's happening in our community, follow us on Twitter at BitSlatoA and Facebook, BitSlato Africa. It's a very simple, maybe just to finish, David, it's a very simple platform. We have no KYC. You just set up immediately and you can start trading. And at the same time, one of the key features or key interesting things that we have a trading bot that is on Telegram. So anyone who has a Telegram, I think the link has been given there by David. You just click on that link, you set up immediately, and you can just start trading. I guess that's about it.
All right. Yeah. So thanks, Frank, for those details. Maybe Kevin, I could ask if someone wants to reach out to you for any advice or information. How can they reach out?
If anyone wants to reach me, I think I'll want to leave my email address. I like everything written. So my email, if anyone has a pen, it's mailakama14@gmail.com. I'll write it on the chat right now. So we can have our conversation starting from there. And I have a company called Q Technologies. That's where we want to start from and build protocols for different enterprises. So we're in discussions with a few people who want to venture into the space and see how they can make money. And yeah, for ours, it's just development. You can reach us on there if you would like us to speak.
Frank, any personal details as well?
Yeah, I think I've posted them on the chat at Bitslato A on Twitter, Bitslato Africa on Facebook, and at Bitslato Chat on Telegram. You can also follow me on Twitter at Frank Dare. So that's about it.
Thank you so much, guys. I think there's no doubt based on the comments that this has been quite a journey. To me personally as well, I've learned quite a lot from a developer's perspective and from a business developer's perspective as well.